Welcome back, everybody, to another Danny Phantom review. Today we are talking about the episode Masters of All Time. This one is a good one. It's pretty good. It's good. So Vlad is back. His ectoacne is back, and he's infected Sam and Tucker with it as well in order to motivate Danny to find a cure. Danny then goes to see Clockwork. So yeah, Clockwork comes back in this episode, and Danny travels back in time in order to try to stop the accident that originally gave Vlad his ectoacne and his powers. Danny has to travel back in time to the 80s. That's right, the 80s are back. Finally. At long last, we get an 80s nostalgic thing. Thank God. It is kind of fun here and very brief. They do a thing with the music here where, this is just Axel F, except it's slightly different so that it's legally distinct. It's actually very similar to what they did with the music in the 50s episode with Sidney Poindexter, where they just use Mr. Sandman, but it's like slightly different. So that's a kind of fun little detail. So then Danny ends up pushing Vlad out of the way of the ghost portal experiment that gave him his powers. So Vlad no longer has powers, but because Vlad's moved out of the way, the explosion hits Jack, and now Jack gets the ectoacne and the subsequent powers. So then we see an alternate timeline where Maddie and Vlad get together and Jack is all by himself and they don't have kids. So we also get a little bit of a It's a Wonderful Life, If Danny Was Never Born kind of situation. Although this is obviously much more reminiscent of Back to the Future. When I first rewatched this episode, I thought that they reused the dialogue from the earlier episode where we first saw this flashback, but upon further inspection I noticed that they actually not only redid the animation for this sequence, they also re-recorded all the lines. I thought that was interesting, especially since the sequence plays out in almost the exact same way as the previous episode.
I'm telling you, Jack, it won't work.
Bogus, V-Man, it totally will.
But yeah, because Maddie and Jack never got together, they don't have the ghost portal that he's used to, so Danny's now trapped in this future. He can't figure out how to get back to Clockwork because there's no ghost portal. His parents never got together, so he has to figure out how to convince both Jack and Maddie that he's their son from another timeline. Eventually he does a fight with Vlad. It's kind of fun because even in this timeline we see that Jack and Maddie still have feelings for each other as sort of they're always destined to be together kind of thing. Turns out Maddie has a ghost portal. Danny goes back through that, undoes the change that he did, while also figuring out that in that original experiment that gave Vlad his powers, Jack accidentally used Diet Coke instead of an ecto purifier substance. So then once Danny returns to the present timeline, he's able to figure out how to cure Sam and Tucker. So yeah, this is just a really fun episode with good character stuff and interesting dynamics. We get to see an alternate version of the characters. We get to see an evil Vladified version of Jack, which is kind of fun. And yeah, this like kind of twisted universe where his mom's married to another guy and he doesn't exist and stuff like that. Good use of playing with some of the core family dynamic character stuff that is some of the strongest character relations in the show. And we get to see Vlad again, which is always fun. Yeah, this episode's it's pretty solid. The only real issue I have with it is that I almost want it to be longer. We don't really get to see much of how else the world is different without Danny being born kind of thing. Tucker and Sam are barely in this episode, and like they're not really missed. But it might have been interesting to see what their lives would have been like without meeting Danny. I mean, I guess we kind of got a little bit of that in the first episode of the season where Sam wishes that they had never met. And also they're not entirely necessary to this plot. It's more about Danny and his family dynamics and stuff like that, which is kind of more interesting and there's more going on there. I think I noticed a continuity error in this one. When Danny first goes to see the alternate future version of Jack, he has the like gray temples and stuff, but then when he shows up again at the end of the episode, he has the like college haircut again, when he should have like at least some gray in his hair. I do kind of like the idea that he's basically never moved on from college and is still in the same outfit for like something like 20 years, but he should at least have some gray in his hair. I don't know, weird little continuity thing. Other than that, this is just like a solid episode with some fun time travel shenanigans. And we get to see a different version of Vlad and Danny having to solve a problem that isn't just, there's a ghost I have to fight. Yeah, so we'll see you next time.
Danny Phantom.